Hello, my name is Javier Mario, a member of Farm 2, and I'm here to deal with
Chris Otieno.
and we'll be covering a few defenses for today.
So, first bit, what are defenses? Defenses are some sort of leeway. For example, let me give a hypothetical. My friend here taken to court the allegation of defilement. Yeah. So defenses will give him the void of avoiding jail term.
Thank you. I will take on the first common defense, which is intoxication. So intoxication, I'll be covering three things on intoxication. That is the principle, the rules, and the burden of proof. Then I will be looking at some unique scenarios in relation to intoxication. So the rules governing intoxication are covered in section 13 of the Penal Code. There are two aspects of intoxication that must be proved. First is that the accused at the time of committing the act was not aware that it was wrong. And the second has been broken down into three bits. There is A, it was involuntary intoxication. B, it was intoxication amounting to insanity temporarily or permanently. And 3, intoxication negating mens rea. With relation to intoxication, it's not a question of whether or not the person was capable of forming intention, but rather whether by intoxication he did not form the intention. This was established in the case of Kianga v. the Republic of Uganda. In relation to the burden of proof, as I've highlighted the three aspects which section 3 outlines, the first aspect was involuntary intoxication. If a court is faced with a case in which the accused was involuntarily intoxicated at the time of committing or omission of the act, which is a crime, then the case will be discharged. If the intoxication is amounting to insanity, then the burden of the proof lies with the accused to prove that at the time of committing the act, he was either temporarily insane or he did not understand what he was doing. And if it is intoxication negating mens rea, then the burden of proof lies with the prosecution to prove this. There are some particularly interesting scenarios with the intoxication that must be covered. Dutch courage. Some people do drink to get the Dutch courage to commit a crime. Then later on in court, they may plead that they were intoxicated at the time of committing the crime. This was an issue tackled in Stephen Minor Masharia v. the Republic. The court said it is not applicable and the accused will still be held guilty. There is the use of a weapon. The court said this one is depends on the evidence, the circumstantial and the primary evidence to determine whether the use of weapon does show intention or does not show intention. Although it is generally guilty, but it is subject to change based on the evidence that has been presented before the court. There's also the case of coincidence of intoxication and provocation. One may plead that he was intoxicated and provoked at the same time, leading to committing of the crime. The court has established that if this is the scenario, then the accused, the provocation will be on the set to the standard of an ordinary person. Of course, the last interesting scenario is drunken brawl. This one is also based on evidence and circumstances. The Kenyan courts in Sironga, Olegidi, and others, the regime said that the doctrine of a drunken brawl is not applicable in Kenya. However, it is covered by the law on defense of persons or property. I believe that's a conclusive wrap-up of the defense of intoxication. I will now be moving to the next defense, which is insanity. Quite a hefty defense. Once again, I will be tackling it the same way I tackled intoxication, which is principles, rules, burden of proof. Now, the principle established is that it is wrong to punish those whose actions are due to illness and not reasonable choices. This is covered in Section 11 and 12 of the Penal Code. Section 11 states that every person is presumed to be sane unless proved otherwise. Now, Section 12 tackles the question of insanity. In the Kenyan courts, the McNaughton rules have been adopted in relation to insanity. They have been adopted into the Penal Code. So to be proven are two things. First is defect of reason, and second is incapacities. So with defect of reason, basically, is you must prove that at the time of committing of the crime, the accused was laboring a disease of the mind according to psychiatry, not according to us, of course. And incapacities, it can be proved either one, the accused could not understand what he or she was doing, or two, the accused did not understand what he or she was doing was wrong. There's also the unique case of insane delusions. With insane delusions, the courts have adopted the stance of the facts of the delusion are to be adopted in the case. For example, in the case of self-defense, delusional, of course, if Ben here says he is delusional, it has been established, and he claims that I was attacking him, that's why he killed me, those are the facts that will be used in the courts. The burden of proof, then will take over.
Okay, for every criminal liability to occur, there must be the aspects of mens rea and actus rea. For burden of proof in insanity, burden of proof lies on the accused. The accused is responsible of proving the facts of whether they were actually insane during the commission of the crime. So in insanity, time is an aspect that is vital, that you must prove that at that time of commission or omission, you are in a state of mental incapacity to make actual judgment. The responsibility of the accused and the prosecution is the prosecutor has the responsibility of, has the burden of proof to prove if, no, sorry. Responsibilities of the accused and prosecutor. The accused has to give evidence of if the time of the commission or omission they were unable to make judgments of goodwill, and the prosecutor has the burden of proving the accused wrong by stating if the accused was not actually mentally ill. The court's responsibility is to actually make the judgment whether or not the accused was actually insane at the time of the commission of the crime. And it is not dependent on the medical tests that are done for psychiatry and stuff.
Thank you. In relation to the plea of insanity, I will cover two more things. As I've said, it is a plea, so you can be found guilty but insane. So basically, what happens is you have been found guilty of committing the crime, but due to the fact that you are insane, the court is at discretion to look into your sentence. And then, of course, there's the peculiar case of when one is insane at trial, he or she cannot understand the proceedings or what is happening when he or she is being tried. If this is the case, the accused is not to be detained, but there's a process which is to be followed. A record of the case will be sent to the minister responsible for prisons to consider it along with the president, and then he will be detained until he is fit for trial, after which he can be taken back to court and the proceedings can be finished. I think we've done a conclusive.
So finally, these acts independent of will which the section 9 of the penal code says that if during the commission of the crime you acted involuntarily of your own will, you are not actually criminal liable to any you're not liable to any criminal responsibilities.
Thank you. With that comes a wrap of this episode. Hopefully, we have covered everything there is to cover on introduction to defenses, the plea of insanity, the plea of intoxication, and acts independent of the will. Have a good day. Thank you.